Ratchets are an important protective right for a VC to secure an investment, especially when the investment doesn't work as planned. So it's a protective right, as you can see over here. And let's look at an example in order to understand how ratchets could have worked or could work. The example of Webvan. Webvan was a great idea. You see a van over here, and it was actually a Webvan. Webvan wanted to bring grocery and all sorts of things to your home. So it was basically a grocery delivery. They received millions from Sequoia Capital and other investors and tried to build up the business model. And by the way, it was a hype and still a hype to do something like that. However, you see the title here, Webvan delivers its last word, bankruptcy. They had a file for Chapter 11, so basically everything was gone. I mean, the van were still there, but they had to file for Chapter 11, so the money was gone. Could Sequoia Capital have done something to secure the money, or at least not to lose everything, which actually I don't know in detail what kind of contract they had, but ratchets could have helped Sequoia at least to manage that kind of risk, which could have come up, bankruptcy, and especially by using milestones for the payout. And this is how it works. What you do as a VC is, if you see the business plan, if you negotiate the deal with the entrepreneur, you try to understand what are the important milestones of the future. And what you then do is you don't give all the money which you'd like to commit to the venture, let's say 2, 3, 5 million at the very first moment, but you can bring it when milestones are achieved. And you can also tie it to the milestones to say, okay, if you don't achieve the milestone, you might get more money, but I might get a different share from your company. So you also might put money into a company, the total amount, but it's converted later on into shares if the company is not going as expected. And besides doing a stage investment, ratchets are especially used in the case which you can see on the slide here. Let's take the example of this company. And the VC says, okay, basically I'd like to invest in the company because it's a very promising company. I'd like to invest $3 million US dollar. And the entrepreneurs also agree with that. But at the very end, what you do in most cases, you argue on the valuation. So the VC wants 30%, you as an entrepreneur only want to give him 20%. So what the VC, what you can do in that moment is the following. You agree on the first financing in the financing round with a 20% share for the VC for 2 million. So that is a post-money valuation of 10 million total. And the additional 1 million which you've agreed on you need for the financing is put in as a convertible debt note. And this convertible debt can be converted if the company doesn't go so well, and is not converted if the company goes well. So what we see basically will do is he looks into your business plan. He says, okay, we don't really agree on the valuation, but let's do it like this. If I'm right and the company doesn't develop like you promise, I get a higher share. If you are right, we all made a good deal, so my shares won't be higher. And at the very end, if the milestone is not achieved, the VC can convert, and this is what happens over here, the additional million into shares, and he ends up with 30% for his 3 million. If not, the convertible debt is repaid after a certain amount of time, and the VC only has 20%. So this is the case. Convertible debt is probably used most in VC financing. You can also use it in stage financing, and this is why ratchets, milestones are of use in multiple situations. However, this is really the case where you need it. So if you can agree on the valuation, but both parties are happy to do an investment, why don't you try to work with someone which can like reduce your risk in that way that after a certain amount of time you look how the development was and then agree on what the right number is. And if you look at that from a theoretical standpoint, again, it can reduce risk over time, means it reduces basically information asymmetry, which asymmetry not really. I mean, it gives better information base for the valuation at the very end. And this is how it works.